Welcome to This Week 35 Explainer. So today we're diving straight into something we're calling building decision tempo. We're going to take a really calm, measured, but highly educational look at a core operational problem that, frankly, almost every single organization on the planet faces. It's kind of this silent vulnerability hiding in plain sight, and it all boils down to one simple truth. Your calendar is slower than the crisis. We're going to fundamentally rethink how you look at speed, impact, and that completely packed meeting schedule of yours.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for shifting your team from just waiting around for meetings to actually executing at tempo. We'll cover the calendar versus the crisis, battle rhythm versus decision tempo, the 5 decision loops, the Nexora time sequence, guardrails to prevent haste, and finally, how to build your decision pilot.
Part 1. The calendar versus the crisis. I want you to imagine a ticking clock for a second. Let's say a critical operational option has been identified, it's been vetted, and it is completely ready to deploy. The solution literally exists right now, but the scheduled meeting to actually approve it? Yeah, that isn't happening for another 3 hours. So the clock is just ticking away on your window of opportunity, all while your calendar insists on waiting. Now let me ask you this directly. Does a cascading operational failure politely pause itself to check your Outlook availability? Will it patiently wait until your entire team finally logs onto a conference call? Absolutely not. There's this immediate and honestly dangerous disconnect between our standardized corporate decision rhythm and the actual real-world speed of impact.
Let's make this totally concrete by looking at the specific Nexora scenario. In this situation, a perfectly viable response option actually exists at 8:31, but the closing window to execute the necessary logistics is 9:42. And that mandatory trade-off meeting? Right, it's not scheduled until 10. The problem we're seeing here isn't a lack of hard work, and it's certainly not a lack of options. The problem is simply that the internal decision rhythm is moving slower than the external impact.
Part 2. Battle rhythm versus decision tempo.
And this brilliantly illustrates the paradigm shift we need to make. On one hand, we have battle rhythm. Battle rhythm is great. It organizes your sit reps, your situation reviews, your meetings. It is built purely for synchronization. But on the other hand, we have decision tempo. Decision tempo organizes the entire journey of a decision. We're talking preparation, authority, execution, and control. Now, these two concepts completely complement each other. Meetings absolutely synchronize teams for sure, but they should never ever become the mandatory bottleneck for every necessary adaptation.
As leaders, you really must internalize this crucial rule. Organizing a meeting is fundamentally different from making an actionable decision. An appointment on a calendar is not a substitute for operational momentum. If you're relying solely on appointments to govern your response, well, your tempo is always going to lag behind the crisis.
Part 3. The 5 decision loops.
So how do we fix this? We break it down methodically to decouple execution from the calendar using these 5 loops. First, you detect the change and its impact horizon. Once it's detected, you bound the uncertainty, meaning you assign it a clear owner and a strict deadline. From there, you pace your preparation and review. Crucially, you then distribute authority with crystal-clear escalation limits. And finally, you close the loop by tracking it all the way to the first controlled effect.
Let's repeat those to make sure they stick. Detect, bound, pace, distribute, close. I really want you to memorize this exact cycle because it's the absolute foundation of decision tempo. When these 5 loops are running smoothly, your decisions stop being stuck in holding patterns. They become living, breathing processes that happen in real time, completely outside of that rigid standard calendar.
Part 4. The Nexora time sequence.
Now, what's really interesting here is how we ground those theoretical loops into operational reality. Just look at how much vital action and execution happens before that 10 a.m. meeting even begins. At 8:31, the option is ready. By 8:38, the hospital horizon is confirmed. At 8:46, the authority check closes. Then at 8:50, assuming no documented objection exists, a limited option is committed. And look at this. By 9:10, the field has already confirmed their understanding and execution.
Because you established one deadline, one owner, and one consequence, the operation actually moved at the speed of the impact. And you know what? Under this sequence, that 10 a.m. situation review board meeting, it still happens. But its purpose has fundamentally changed. The meeting is now there to control the decision and review its effect, rather than blocking the decision from happening in the first place.
Part 5. Guardrails to prevent haste. Now, a quick word of caution here. Executing fast without structured control, that isn't tempo. That is just dangerous haste. Useful speed is controlled speed. Tempo must always follow Business Impact Analysis, or BIA, horizons, not just human impatience. To make sure we don't cross that line, every single delegation of authority requires 3 specific, non-negotiable guardrails: a clearly defined scope, a set duration, and a strict stop threshold.
So the crucial point is this: act before the impact, but always, always control the effect. Under this framework, no decision is truly considered fast or complete until its effect is actively verified in the real world. You aren't just making a choice in a vacuum, you are actively governing its outcome.
Part 6. Build your decision pilot. Okay, we've covered the theory and we've walked through the timeline. Let's put this into practice so you can implement this framework into your own crisis management protocols immediately. Building your pilot starts step by step. First, choose just one recurring decision. Next, record its last useful moment. That's the absolute deadline right before the impact hits. Then, map out your own 5 Nexora times. Once that's set, establish the owners, the escalation thresholds, and a default backup decision. Finally, test this entire flow on exactly one specific scenario.
I literally cannot emphasize this enough. Start with one decision. Do not attempt to overhaul your entire organizational structure all at once. By focusing your pilot on a single, contained scenario, you effectively and safely build up the muscle memory that is absolutely required for true decision tempo.
And all this integrates beautifully into the Ransom-Kick Resilience Model. This model intricately synchronizes your BIA, your business continuity, your disaster recovery, and your crisis response planning to maintain those clear operational horizons. And if you're wondering how to manage all that complex synchronization, tools like the Arkeionis.app are designed to help maintain those horizons, authorities, evidence, and results in one single living reference.
Ultimately, crisis governance is really about empowering the right level before the last moment. Tomorrow, in our next explainer, we're going to build on this by examining exactly why not every decision should actually wait for the same meeting. But until then, I want to leave you with a thought to consider about your own operations. If a crisis hits your team tomorrow at 8:31 a.m., where does your organization's last responsible level truly lie? And is it fast enough to beat the 9:42 deadline?